was about 10 years ago. I was in the woods walking with a monk, Bhante Rahula, at Bhavana Society in West Virginia. And he broke down suffering into just a simple concept that any time that we're wishing reality to be other than it is, that is suffering. In that same fall, I had spent 30 days up at a Vipassana meditation center in Shelburne Falls, Massachusetts. And S.N. Goenka, the teacher, repeated time and time again about experiencing reality, accepting, observing reality as it is, not as we would like it to be, not as we would prefer it to be, just experiencing reality as it is. There's a word for that. It's equipoise or equipoise or equanimity. Well, it took until last week for me to get it, to finally understand. In the Four Noble Truths, the Buddha says there's suffering, there's a cause of suffering, there's a cessation of suffering, and a path that leads to it. And it's often said that craving or desire is the root of suffering. But it didn't click until just this week that it literally is the cause, that there is no other cause of suffering. It's only desire. And I'd like to use some practical examples so that it would hopefully make sense to you the way it's come to make sense to me. The first is we're going out to dinner. It's going to be a nice dinner. And we've made a plan, and we get to the restaurant, and we have experience and 95% of it is good. But there's this 5%, it's most likely 1, but we'll say 5, that didn't measure up to our standard. Didn't measure up to our expectation. So maybe it was the way we were greeted by the host or hostess, or maybe how long it took to get the table, maybe how long it took to get the food, maybe something came out not exactly hot, maybe the bill took a little long to get or was a little expensive, or any of these minor things that our mind latches onto and takes an experience that was otherwise magnificent and breaks it down into the 1 to 5% that didn't meet our standards. And we begin to suffer. We become agitated. We don't have peace of mind. We can't really enjoy the experience because we're focused on this fraction of the experience that didn't meet our standard. But the only way for us to have the standard, the only way to have this expectation is to have a desire. A desire for things to be other than the way they are. So it's not the host or hostess. It's not how long it took us to get a seat or get our food. It wasn't the temperature of the food. It wasn't the bill. It was desire. It's always desire. So long as we have a standard and expectation and it's not met, and we want things to be other than they are, that is fueled by desire. There's no other way around it. If we look at an interpersonal relationship, we could say someone does or says something and we don't like it. It makes us upset. But it's not really the person, it's their behavior. So then we say, no, the behavior makes me upset. And it's not really the behavior, it's the tendency that fuels the behavior. So no, we're like, no, it's the tendency that makes us upset. But it's none of these things. It's the standard or expectation that wasn't met, which is fueled by desire. We desired someone to act in such a way, but they didn't. And then we get upset. But the culprit is desire. You can blame everything and anything else, but in the end, it boils down to our desire. The way out, it's tricky. But what I love about the Four Noble Truths is that he starts with, there's a problem, and there's a way to fix it. But you have to be able to see what the problem is. Seeing the culprit. And this is intellectual information. You can take this and take it and you can go tell everybody else, hey, I know all the meaning to life, I know all the answers now. Suffering comes because of desire. I watched a video about it, read a book about it. And then you can think about it for a while and you come to your own conclusions, contemplate it. But eventually you have the experience, and that's where the magic's at. That's where the medicine's at. Because once we understand the mechanics, once we understand how suffering arises, then we can start to come out. And not that I look at suffering as an enemy. It's maybe an opponent, adversary. It is what it is. But if we're trying to come out, we have to understand it like we would understand our enemy, understand our opponent, understand our adversary, to know how they're going to behave and what we need to do to come out on top. Meditation is the way. It teaches the skills to have the insight to even see this process, how it arises. And then to build the skills necessary to be able to work with the mind skillfully. To learn how to abandon certain thoughts, replace them with other thoughts, cultivate new thoughts. But the first step is asking a very serious question. Do we want to suffer, or do we not?